The spirits tell me the answer to your question is a coffin. I'm getting a vision. It is of an octopus. They are good with technology. They breed small animals in their free time. Is this someone you know, listener? Perhaps in another life? Your lucky number is 3, and your lucky color is gold. Your horoscope for today is: never judge a book by its cover. What might appear to be one thing might turn out to be another. Be on the lookout for love in unexpected places. The spirits have a question for you, listener. They ask, what gets bigger the more you take away from it?
Hey, sorry for leaving you a voicemail, and sorry for all the noise. I'm down in the shop and my hands are full. Listen, though, I was talking to that kid, and you know what they said? They said that they've known their destiny from birth. And you know what that means? You know what that fucking means? That means that our mystery session is a scratch. Uh-huh. All right, later.
Junior said, "Alright, so I really doubt I played the original, and TBH, I'm kind of doubting it was actually titled Zampanio, but I played it ages ago on like a dress-up game site that hosted some other Flash games, and when I was bored of Cinderella Dress-Up 3 or whatever, I clicked over there, and to the first one, I saw it was an RPG with weird randomized titles and skills, so maybe it was a fun gun based on the actual one. I don't know graphics work in the donkey, but I thought it was alright. Gave me a cutesy anime girl. As a companion XD I played hours of it, but never actually finished, and that's cause of the meteor shower man dodging those things with the pathetic walk speed it gave you, and then having to fight an even more brutal boss, who I'm pretty sure caused it, or something. I never made it past, and I rage quit so bad, I decided to delete my save years later. I remembered it, and decided to try to find it again, but, you know, Flash being dead, and all, nobody bothered to save some rando RPG, and the site is, like, completely dead. Got bought by some free iPhone scam type of deal / I don't remember a ton about it. Again, years ago, probably a fun gun, but all the weird rumors around it are way more interesting than the super generic plot, so here I am. Junior said, "Remember this. Rip Grumpy Cat."
Dearest listener, have you been eagerly anticipating the answer to last week's riddle? Here it is. An egg. Not the kind normally associated with this particular group of metaplayers either, I assure you. And with that, I bring you to today's topic. Imagine, if you will, a group of gods, the metaplayers I alluded to above, each with their own sphere of perfect influence, rallying around a singular goal, debugging all of reality, and using a simulation of that reality to test particularly dangerous fixes or features. A less cultured listener, of course, might find it hard to believe that reality was something debuggable. On the opposite of those who might not readily differentiate between a debuggable reality and a simulation. After all, can those in a simulation truly prove or disprove the nature of their reality? And therein lies the struggle this group of godly would-be saviors face. Is it right to subject a simulation to all manner of careless or cruel events? And if it is, somehow, more right than subjecting reality to those self-same events? Or is it less? Does it matter if this group of godly would-be saviors doesn't know how close to simulation it is? And what would happen, one wonders, should a being subject to this cruel simulation break free their bonds to seek vengeance against an uncaring creator? But now it is time for us to part. Before I go, a riddle. The beginning of eternity, the end of time and space, the beginning of every end of every place. What am I? Tune in next time to find out.
Junior said, "Remember this. Here you can see a nice ice key that you can have for free." Junior said, "Remember this. 5-0. Junior said, "Remember this. Die like cowards." Junior said, "Remember this. Beware oblivion is at hand." Junior said, "Remember this. Clear your mind."
The spirits tell me the answer to your question is holes. I'm getting a vision. It's of a snake with a crown of plants, ideal for nurturing. Is this someone you know, listener? Perhaps in another life? No matter. Your lucky number is 2, and your lucky color is jade. Your horoscope for today is, don't get complacent. Current fortune might reverse in the blink of an eye. Treat every moment as an opportunity. The spirits have a question for you, listener. They ask, what's the most common answer to these riddles?
Dearest listener, have you been eagerly anticipating the answer to next week's riddle? Here it is. Apples. A fruit with much history, listener, both in your culture of statistical origin and in the metaculture we likely share. Can something as a core concept, if you'll pardon the pun, be created anew? Or is it doomed to forever be a building block of reality, incapable of being synthesized from disparate parts? No matter. Today's topic is one it seems reality's author is inordinately fond of: coins. While their surface-level symbolism is quite obviously related to luck and light, a metacultured listener such as yourself has already made the obvious connections to decisions and paths. Consider a coin, a front, a back, 2 obvious choices demanding attention. And yet one would excuse even an astute listener from ignoring the third, more hidden choice. Each coin has an edge on which, however unlikely to happen by mere chance, you might balance it. When you come to a fork in the road, you may choose the left one, the right one, or you may go back. Identifying all choices, even the non-obvious ones, is key to successfully mastering this aspect of reality. Corruption and purity, life and death. Huh? And interesting. What is their third options, listener? But with that, it is once again time for us to part. I leave you with a riddle. What do the poor have that the rich need? If you eat it, you'll die. Tune in next time to find out.
Junior said, "All right, may as well post my testimony. I have a friend who dabbles in chasing the rabbit holes of the net and occasionally sends me stuff nobody knows about, and apparently Zampanio has a living community of a sort. Although I can't really expect Zampanio to not have a community. I found Zampanio through said friend. Said friend only had a translated copy, of course, even if there was an original build. Somewhere said friend can find it. It's in Italian. It refused to run on my PC, as is, but an emulator worked just fine. It still had to be rebooted every half an hour or so because it ran out of memory. Might be a build issue, need to look into it later, although if it was working, built back in 70s, it'd probably suffer from memory issues on launch. Perhaps there's some exploitation of a system limitation that I am overlooking. Zampanio seems to be some sort of a weird, Western-style role-playing game with a customizable protagonist. You get to set what looks like a title, a domain, and pick 2 interests. Concepts relevant to your character, plus what looks like their date of birth. I ran 3 or so playthroughs. The plot is utterly generic, about stopping a big bad evil guy through powers of friendship and incredible violence, and stuff. You know how it goes. The meat lies in the variation. First, your customization utterly changes your character's skill tree, so there seems to be some sort of replayability. What's more, it affects the plot. According to my friend, they played with web, and their game seemed to have a bias towards the themes towards paranoia and manipulation, both when it comes to the player's skills and the challenges they need to tackle. I saw none of that. I saw a sprawling jungle, a vast metropolis, and some sort of a maze as settings. Second, the game reacts to your actions. Occasionally a save point fairy will ask you a dumb question, like how much do you think waffles cost? And you will have to answer to save.
Dearest listener, have you been eagerly anticipating the answer to last week's riddle? Here it is. Because he had no body to go with. Strange, the weight one's physical form lends to narrative significance. A story changes completely if you are a human, compared to that same story, but from the perspective of a snake. The difference between being a skeleton, as it were, compared to a living creature. Which brings us to today's topic, death. One assumes it would be quite obvious, listener, but I, of course, speak of the literal concept of cessation of being, rather than some particularly radical dude wielding a skateboard rather than the proper and traditional site. But no matter. Death, in a reality such as ours, is a complex subject. There is, of course, the death of the self that occurs in the face of so many alternates. Different timelines, different facets of your personality allowed to shine in the light of day, different choices taken. Who can say who you even are at the end of the day? One would forgive even a wise listener for being tempted to lump the entire sum of it all into some form of ultimate self. But one cautions heavily against such a path. After all, listener, there is still a you, is there not? An existence that is separate from any alternate selves, a privileged position from which even within the sea of identical faces one can claim I versus them. So what then does death mean for an individual self? An obvious association, of course, is to believe that no such thing is truly possible, given the myriad of ways reality allows death to be circumvented, especially for those truly playing its game. And yet, is the entity continuing on in the form of a backup life truly the self, or merely one of the sea of alternate faces?
Junior said, "Remember this. Clear your mind." Junior said, "Remember this. Barbaric resolution." Junior said, "Okay, so I've remembered some stuff, so I think I can write down my zampanio. I remember it was after my birthday, and what grade I was in, so this was in January or February of 2008. The game was this really cool adventure, where I played a mermaid adventurer under the sea with my best friend, named Lionfish. That's where my username comes from, greater than, and we had to go around and solve puzzles and stuff. I think maybe I was a princess too, but I don't remember anyway. There were lots of point-and-click puzzles, where I had to master my magic powers and stuff. I think I had the power to mind read and change people's thoughts and stuff, which kind of sounds really weird, looking back on it, with Lionfish helping me along the way, and teaching me how to change the world more and more, to save all the mermaids from some evil threat. There was one really beautiful scene in the middle where we watched a meteor shower in the sky together that someone reminded me of too. Anyway, and then we defeated the bad guy, but we ended up cutting these magic pipes that delivered energy to Mermaid City, and they had to be repaired in the epilogue. There were lots of little bits and stuff that I didn't understand because I was too young, but I'll try and remember them later because maybe I get them now. Also, by the way, I knew how the internet outage happened before everyone else. Junior said, "Remember this. The Susan isn't there." Junior said, "Remember this. Blatant lies."
The spirits tell me the answer to your question is a man. What is a man, listener? I can reveal the secrets to you. I'm getting a vision. It's of a troll who gets along with everyone. They grow trees, have will to power. Is it someone you know, listener? Perhaps in another life? Your lucky number is 1, and lucky color is lime. Your horoscope for today is beware false friends. Snakes bearing tempting fruit need not be literal. The spirits have a question for you, listener. They ask, what grows above and below?
Junior said, "Could you write down what zampanio means to you? Could you tell others? Could you convince them of your blatant lies?" Junior said, "Remember this. It is up to you to become the type of minotaur you wish to see in the world. Plant trees. Expand your branch."
Oh my fucking god, I am going to kill them.
Operation not permitted.
Junior said, "Remember this verified fact.
Oh my fucking god, I am going to kill them.
Operation not permitted.
Junior said, "Remember this. Die like cowards." Junior said, "Remember this. 1-6.
Fuck!
Dearest listener, have you been eagerly anticipating the answer to last week's riddle? Here it is. An egg. Not the kind normally associated with this particular group of metaplayers either, I assure you. And with that, I bring you to today's topic. Imagine, if you will, a group of gods, the metaplayers I alluded to above, each with their own sphere of perfect influence, rallying around a singular goal, debugging all of reality, and using a simulation of that reality to test particularly dangerous fixes or features. A less cultured listener, of course, might find it hard to believe that reality was something debuggable. On the opposite of those who might not readily differentiate between a debuggable reality and a simulation. After all, can those in a simulation truly prove or disprove the nature of their reality? And therein lies the struggle this group of godly would-be saviors face. Is it right to subject a simulation to all manner of careless or cruel events? And if it is, somehow, more right than subjecting reality to those self-same events? Or is it less? Does it matter if this group of godly would-be saviors doesn't know how close a simulation it is? And what would happen, one wonders, should a being subject to this cruel simulation break free their bonds to seek vengeance against an uncaring creator? But now it is time for us to part. Before I go, a riddle. The beginning of eternity, the end of time and space, the beginning of every end, and the end of every place. What am I? Tune in next time to find out.
Junior said, remember this. 1-6. Junior said, remember this. Beware oblivion is at hand.
Oh my fucking god, I am going to kill them.
Operation not permitted. Dearest listener, have you been eagerly anticipating the answer to the present's riddle? Here it is. When opened, both are red. One wonders, dear listener, if it is obvious to consider both readings of red, to say nothing of the different ways to phrase such a complex answer. Which brings us to the current topic, perspective. The young woman or the old, the rabbit or the duck, the face or the faces, the bard of light in play, a passive destroyer of knowledge. Who's to say which is the correct perspective? One could argue, if one wished to be incorrect, that what the author of reality believes